Hello and welcome. I want to take a minute to go over this amazing console that we will be using so that you get the best experience during the webcast. This console is fully customizable. You can reshape, resize, and move all of the windows. The widgets for today's webcast are the presenter slides and media player, where you will view the webcast presentation. We have the Q&A to ask questions that the presenters will be answering throughout the webcast. The speaker bio will give you information on the speakers and links to contact them. And in the resources, you will find all of your goodies like your slides, your handouts, and your giveaways. The group chat is where you will chat back and forth with the other attendees. And if you want to tell somebody about this great webcast, but you don't want to leave and miss a thing, that is not a problem, because we have a suite of social media icons to choose from, so you can tweet and post about this webcast. You can even invite a friend with the Refer a Colleague widget, and you never have to leave the platform. The Help widget will open a new window to help you with technical difficulties that you may experience, and the survey will be used at the end of the webcast to let us know how we did, what we can do better, and topics that you would like to see in the future. To clean up your console for better viewing, simply click on the widget for the window that you would like to close. As a few last details, please remember to sign out of or disable all of your pop-up blockers. This is an audio broadcast, so to get the best sound quality, all of the sounds for this webcast should be coming directly through your computer. We are recording and you will be receiving a copy, but you will want to stick around for the live Q&A and special offers at the end. We are excited to have you here today. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy this opportunity to mastermind with your Originator Connect network.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the next event in the Originator Connect Network webcast forum and platform. We're excited to have you here today. We've got a great opportunity to learn about how to take control of your leads. We've got a marketing expert, Mr. Chris Kamek with Camber Marketing Group, one of our senior executives, who's going to be sharing a lot of great information with us today. Remember, this is intended to be a very interactive and participatory event. We want to hear from you, we want to interact with you, and we want to get the information in your hands that you need to take charge of your leads. We're going to do that primarily through the Q&A section for the detailed questions, but please also take advantage of the opportunity to share thoughts, comments, suggestions, success strategies, testimonials, whatever you want to do with your Originator community across the nation or across the hallway. Of course, we want to encourage you to think about also other applications for this event today that you could share with other folks, people within your company or even potentially business partners, realtors, financial planners, CPAs, and insurance agents. If you find something of value here, please don't hesitate to share this with everybody that you're interacting with. Without further ado, though, otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Chris so he can share all the wonderful information with us that he has to share today.
Hey, I appreciate it, Eric. Again, Chris Kamek with Camber Marketing Group. There we are. And I am flanked by two people helping me. I've got Brooke and Steph over here. So when you see me look off camera, it's talking to them. Brooke is keeping me on point, making sure I'm covering everything I need to cover and I don't have any wild tangents. Steph is helping me with the Q&A. Y'all come over here. Say hey real quick. Just to let you know who we're working with. This is part of the Camber team. They usually come to our shows as well. There we go.
Hey.
Brooke and Steph. Thank you. So I wanted to bring everyone together and have a discussion about leads and how to take control of them. So our goal here is to discuss all the different dimensions of leads, figure out how to quantify them, qualify them, and determine which one's ultimately the best for you individually. So before we get too deep into it, we've got this main slide up, I believe. Let me push it to the audience. Is the slide up? Okay, so I want to paint a picture in your mind. Maybe it's a situation that you've lived, maybe you've seen it in a movie, but the situation is you're in a party or you're in a bar. Lots of people you know around. You look across the room, and there's that one person that makes your heart stop. You start getting butterflies in your stomach, and you just know this is love at first sight. I've got to go talk to this person. So here is my question to you. You're in this situation. What do you do? So we have this first poll question. Do we have the poll up?
Yep.
Okay. So what do you do in this situation? Do you know people in the room? Are you waiting for an introduction? Do you stand up and walk over there yourself? Do you find ways to bring that person to you? Or do you give up that person's just way out of your league? Hopefully no one's selecting D down here. So what do? Let's see where do people march over and introduce yourself. I think that's nearly 100%, wasn't it? Excellent. I like that answer. Okay, so let's continue with the scene. So you get up the courage, you start walking across the room, and suddenly, oh, we didn't think about number E. Just as you're walking over there, you see someone else beat you to them. So someone else is now talking to them, introducing themselves. So you've lost the opportunity for that. You've lost that opportunity to meet that special person. So how you answer this question, how you handle your lead generation. So let's dive into this a little bit deeper. And so first, before anything, I want to get on the same page of defining what a lead is. So let's define a lead. A lead is an opportunity to sell. It's not an application. Bear with me, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my slides here. Okay. It's not an application. It's not a deal. It's an opportunity to sell. And all companies, no matter what size, no matter what industry, need leads. Every company needs an opportunity to sell. So once we have a lead, we need to understand the quality. We need to have a scale for measuring what the quality of lead is. So we like to consider it on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being absolutely frigid cold, other side of that 10 being ready to sign. Lead quality is often determined where the lead comes from, and it also determines how much selling you have to do to convert that lead into a deal. Again, 0 is going to require a lot of different, a lot of extra selling. A 10, not so much. But so other than, I did miss that, didn't I? Okay, Brooke's already telling me that I missed some things. So real quick, at the end, we do want to say we are going to be sharing a bunch of best practices, but we do have some offers coming out. We've got one published offer. We're going to throw out an additional offer and give you a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card. Yes. Okay, so thanks. Welcome back. So now back to, once we understand the quality of lead, we need to understand what the different categories are. So there's two ways we like to put leads into categories. One of them are passive sources. Now, passive sources means you receive an introduction. The direct sources are you make the introductions happen. And we find most of our successful originators have mastered a way to get leads from both of these sources. They've got things coming from introductions, and they're making their own introductions. So stepping into the passive lead sources a little more detail. The passive lead sources are the most common type that we see with our customers. This is similar to the poll answer A. You're waiting for someone else in the room to make the introduction to you. These are realtors. These are referrals. These are your social networks, your friends and family, your online social network, and your in-person network. So passive leads tend to be really high in quality. Think about it. The realtor says, okay, I'm working with this person. They're ready to buy a house. Make sure you get the loan done. That is a pretty high quality lead. Your cousin says, hey, I'm looking for a mortgage. You're a broker. Can you help me out? That's a pretty qualified lead. But keep in mind that when you're relying on your passive source, you are putting other people in charge of your lead flow. So essentially, you're letting others dictate your success. Now, we've talked to many an individual that gets all of the business they can accommodate from their passive lead channel. And that's great. But we're hearing more and more often that the passive lead channels, the networks, are not delivering enough to keep people busy anymore. So I'm curious, what percentage of your leads currently comes from the passive channels? If you take a moment to click on those, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and Chris, by the way, keep in mind, if you want to just leave that up for about 30 seconds or so, sometimes there is going to be a couple second lag with some of our attendees. depending on the strength of their internet. So we want to leave this up for 30 to 45 seconds. Just give the audience a good grouping of time to go ahead and answer those questions. You want to maybe share a little bit about, kind of what you've seen in the past as you go into kind of your next talking point while they're waiting to answer that question. That'd be great too.
Okay, absolutely. So it's the passive network is usually the first starting point for most people that enter this industry. And, everyone starts getting out and getting themselves introduced to the people in their environment. They're joining the Rotary clubs. They are getting involved in maybe sponsoring some school functions and such. They're getting their name out, and it is important. But the whole concept of putting someone else in charge. So you put your web out there. You've got all these people feeding you leads, but you're still at the mercy. Someone needs to fly into that web. So we find companies tend to outgrow this step, and they get to a point where they need to start driving leads outside of what their passive network is generating. But it looks like, as we would expect, the majority of individuals is 76 to 100% comes from passive channels, but I am surprised to see the 0 to 25 pretty much being tied, isn't it? Yeah, it is being tied. Okay, so that's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that with us, everybody. Okay. So we've talked about the passive channels. Let's look at the direct sources for a little bit. The direct lead sources are where you are directly involved in controlling the flow. You are making the introduction happen. And the most common method that we see from clients that we talk to is the internet, online leads. These would be the Zillows, the LendingTrees, other online aggregators. And we find this is the first stepping point that when people need to generate leads outside of their network, this is the first place they go. And it's got some advantages and it's got some disadvantages. We find the internet leads tend to be in the middle of the quality scale. So we like to, this is akin to the person across the room making contact with you. You're getting excited. They said, okay, I'm interested in talking to you. You still have to cross the room and get to them. So in that sense, that can be a little bit of a challenge. In fact, some of the primary comments we hear from our clients is that they have a hard time reaching the person at all, or when they do, someone else has gotten there. So some other direct lead sources. And I want to bring up some what ifs. It's back to our original story. What if you already knew the person across the room? Or what if you had a way to entice them to bring to you? So that's what we're going to dive into a little bit deeper right here. The first one is what we refer to as client remarketing. And this is all about mining your past. Your greatest, most cost-effective source of new business comes from your old business. We do a lot of analysis at Camber. We have found that within a client's portfolio, about 2 to 2.5% of their past clients are back in the market for a new mortgage each month. So what does that mean? That means anyone you've worked with in the past, let's say you've got 1,000 people in your database, 20 of those are in the market for a mortgage right now, and that's significant. So the opportunities that you can find in your past, I can't express the value for that, how valuable that is. So there's ways to find out when that transaction started, that mortgage application started. There's ways to try to get in front of that. There's some, we're starting to make friends with the individuals at revaluate.com, and I think they may have a webinar here in the next day or so. They're doing some pretty exciting things getting in front of that transaction, finding when someone is going to be in a market for a mortgage before it actually happens. Another way to really find value in your past is to find the past products that you couldn't help before. There's a whole new suite of non-QM type products that are really becoming popular, and this is the buzz. I think this the growth is going to be over the next couple of years. So someone you worked with last year might have had a little bit of problems with their application. You weren't able to get them approved. If you now go back to a message and say, hey, we weren't able to help you with your situation last time, now we've got products that can help you. Let's give it another try. We've had tremendous success with this. So, we couldn't help you before, we can help you now is another great way of going back to your past clients and finding additional value there. So another quick question, do you currently actively market to your past clients? Oh, let me push it out to you. There we go. Okay, so curious to know if you're currently doing anything to market to your past clients. And I know a lot of companies offer services like the weekly or monthly emails, or here's a recipe for a cookie recipe or so, or when to plant tomatoes and such. So this is nice. That's branding. That's keeping your name in front of them. But are you doing anything to really inquire, hey, what's changing in your life that a different financial solution may solve? And Brooke is reminding me that we do have some other collateral about remarketing in the resource tab. I think you can find it out there. There's a number of PDFs over there you can download, and one is specifically towards remarketing. So about 3/4 of you are actively marketing to your past clients. It's excellent. Keep it up. Really, there's a lot of value there, and we love the phrase "mine your past," mine your past. And if you're looking for the most efficient way of directly driving leads, that's the way to do it. Okay, so let's say that you're working all the leads that come from your network. Great. And now you're mining all the opportunities you can find in your past client database. Great, but you're still hungry. You still need more opportunities to sell. So what do? There's the next step that we recommend is the direct response marketing. So the direct response marketing, what is this? And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page of what we define as direct responses, not just mass solicitations. A direct response marketing, sometimes you see it referred to as consumer direct marketing, is a tailored message to a targeted prospect that invokes a response. The key words there are tailored, targeted, response. What does tailored mean? Tailored means the message is customized to them. You put information specific to their unique situation into the correspondence, into the message. So, in the mortgage world, it's new payments or new consolidated payments or MI values that you can drop and such. So it means something specific to them based on their information. What does targeted mean? Targeted means we're not sending it out to everyone within a zip code or within the block or so. We're finding the specific individuals that you can qualify. And furthermore, once they're qualified, is there a propensity for the product? It's not enough just to find someone that can qualify for a mortgage, but let's use additional information about them to target them to determine that they have a propensity for a new mortgage, that they have a need for a different financial situation. So when tailored and targeted are done correctly, they come together and produce the response, which means the prospect comes to you. So a couple of very effective strategies that we see in the marketplace right now, as you would imagine, are those that are not rate sensitive. The purchase campaign has always been one of our highest performing campaigns. It's always been one of my favorites. It's got a lot of benefits. It puts you in touch with other realtors. It helps you build your realtor network, and helping people purchase a house it's very rewarding. But then the cash out debt consolidation refinance loan, this has also become very popular as well now. So it's not about rate anymore, is it? It's about payments, about better financial situations. So these are the most effective. You hardly even need to talk about rate when you're providing these loans. This is where the traction is. And I think as we see other non-QM type products add into these two strategies, they'll get even stronger and stronger. Some other effective strategies that we see a lot of traction with are MIP elimination campaigns, reverse campaigns, VA loan campaigns. Those tend to always be a lot of favorites amongst our clients. And truthfully, a lot of the clients we work with don't pick just one campaign. They mix it up. They will do a blended strategy. So one week they may have a campaign to attract purchase leads, the next one maybe cash out leads, the next one maybe MIP elimination, and they just cycle through it. So that brings the advantage of filling a pipeline with a lot of different type of business. Excuse me. Okay, so what are some other advantages of the direct response marketing? First, it's scalable. Now, we've seen that the passive network it's hard to be scalable. You can always try to find some new sources to generate leads for you, but that gets tougher and tougher. The internet leads we find, if you try to scale it too high, you're starting to find more people that are just that you're having a hard time getting in touch with. So, but within a direct response, there's usually plenty of data out there, plenty of new opportunities out there to scale it about as large as you want to go. It builds your database. So you may have, say, 1,000 people you worked with in the past. Well, every single person that responds into a direct response campaign is someone that now goes into your database, and keep that 2 to 2.5% rule in mind. You may not work with them now, but you've got their information captured, and you continue following up with them, and they will eventually turn to business. So you're growing that portfolio of marketable past contacts through a direct response channel, even though it doesn't necessarily turn into a loan right away. And as I mentioned before, it can strengthen your passive network, especially if you're doing a purchase campaign. All of those have a realtor, or most of those have a realtor. If they don't, send them to your realtors. Strengthen the relationships you have. If they're working with a realtor, get an introduction. And they all have family, they all have friends. Every time you have an opportunity to talk to someone, whether that opportunity doesn't materialize or not, use that opportunity to try to get introduced into other opportunities. I may not be able to help you today, but is there anybody else that could use my services right now? Something as simple as that. Okay, so I know this is a topic that comes up pretty frequently with people, direct lead sourcing on a budget. So even if you don't have a lot of funds to do a lot of marketing, there's ways to drive in new leads, new opportunities to sell on a limited budget. There's one service that we use that's called in-market monitoring. So this allows people, this connects you with people that have just entered the market, and we set it up to where it gives you about 200 new opportunities, new introductions over the course of a month at a cost of what's less than what most people make on a loan. So it's about being in the right market at the right time, looking within your geography, within your neighborhoods to find when people are entering that market or about to enter that market, and knowing the most appropriate time to talk to them. And as you look at ways to market on a budget, some words of advice: cheap marketing does not necessarily create a cheap close, a cheap deal. We've seen plenty of people throw a few $100s at a postcard campaign or so and not get any deals from it. They did cheap marketing, but it turned out to be very expensive because they didn't get anything out of it. So you got to make your dollars count, and we're happy to help guide and give some counseling on if you've got limited dollars, how is it best to spend them, and understanding what your goals of those are. Is it just to get your brand across, or is it actually to generate business? And this is in from Steph. Okay, so we got a question from Max. Does a lead have a specific time frame for when they will buy? Yes, and that is going to depend on the source. It's going to depend on the quality. A lead that comes in that is a result of monitoring is going to close very quickly. A lead that is looking to refinance or cash out, rather, tends to close very quickly. A purchase type lead may take another 60 or 90 days, depending on where you start talking to them in the process, either in the house shopping process. Are they just starting to look, or have they finally found something and need to close? So we tend to try to look at it in the 30, 60, 90-day window. The higher the quality of lead, and depending on where the source is and what the type of lead is, can get it in that 30-day window. A purchase or an early quality lead may be in that 60 to 90. And can you give me an example of a specific style of direct response marketing campaign? Well, let's use perhaps the purchase, or actually let's use the cash out or the debt consolidation. method is to get a message into them at a time when they're most propensive to use that product, and to make sure that they are currently would qualify for that product. So it's usually a letter tailored for them with all of their specific information and specific information about the offer of how you would get, how you would present a better financial situation to them in the message. Direct mail is a preferred channel for this. It's very effective. I know other companies that use outbound telemarketing to get this. I think that's become a little less favorable. But direct mail has proven the most effective means to put this message in someone's hand.
Chris, I'm going to interject something on that. To go a layer deeper in that particular question, and really splinter to two sides of that. So should you focus more on product and solution in that message or on that postcard, or should you focus on more of the need of the consumer? What is the pain point or the frustration for the family?
You can, and I wouldn't do a postcard. It's always a letter folded into an envelope. That's the most appropriate mechanism to communicate something important like a mortgage. And if you've identified pain through their, whether it's credit profile, demographic profile, you can certainly address it, but not in a disrespectful manner. But sometimes it's more appropriate to. They may not know they're in pain. They may, you consider. I think there's an analogy: if you put a frog in water and you turn up the heat, he'll just happily boil to death. So there's people in that situation where they may need to be notified that they are in pain. It's like, hey, they don't realize there are better situations out there. They don't know that there are fixes out there. So understanding what their situation is and offering a better financial solution identifies, hey, there is a better way, and lead them to call into you to help them through that process.
Okay. So essentially what you're saying is focus on the what would the need be, the why that consumer might be thinking about or maybe even unaware of. So kind of the messaging about property values have increased substantially, rates are still very favorable. You may have a lot of extra equity sitting there to wipe out consumer debt or high cost interest loans, or are you needing to renovate or update your home for whatever reason? Call us, we can help you. That kind of messaging, is that a more appropriate example of the direct response marketing piece?
It is, and remember, there is a lot of equity now, so. There's still also a lot of debt out there, but there's also non-credit card debt. We like to look at non-mortgage, non-auto debt and help people remove the burdens of those higher payments by offering them through a cash-out debt consolidation mortgage. But that's it exactly.
Okay, so it's the focus on the needs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, cool. All right. Sorry, I took you off your flow a little bit on that one. I just wanted to make sure the audience got the meat of what that really means at a little bit deeper level, just to try and make a connection with what that World Directors marketing system is all really about.
Oh, sure. No, I appreciate the interjection. You stop me if you see any other questions that come up or something that needs to be clarified a little further.
Yeah, definitely. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. So in here, we want to talk a little bit about the ways to best keep your leads. And am I on the right slide? Here we go. Yes. The best practices on how to keep your leads to make sure that they're not getting stolen by a competitor. Number one, and I don't know if you've been to any of the recent Originator Connect Network shows, is the big topic is your social presence. The first thing someone's going to do is they're going to Google you. And one is you have to understand that you need to have a presence, and you need to have a good presence. An absence of a social presence, or a bad presence, is going to be very bad for you. But you also have to understand the minute someone goes online and starts entering in ABC Cambr Mortgage, now Google knows that they are looking for a mortgage, and every single banner that they're going to see on their websites is going to be a mortgage offer from somebody. So one, you have to have that good, strong presence so that they're not going to be incented to click away. If they can't find you, you know what? They're definitely going to click away. Another company that we've seen, doing a lot of good work here is Podium.com. They've been on some other webinars here, and we've seen them at shows. So if you've got a great 4.5, 5-star profile out there and you invest a lot of time in it, great. If you need a little help with that, go out and find the help, whether through them or somebody else, because it is important. The first thing people are going to do is they're going to Google you. Another tactic and believe how frustrating it is if someone can never reach you. So it's very, very important not to let anybody to reach voicemail, because there are so many inexpensive tech ways out there to make sure that someone always lands on a person when they try to call you. It gives you another benefit of just having one number. So sometimes you see in signatures, here's my cell phone, here's my desk line, here's my company line, and here's my other line. So no one knows which number to call. But if you get one of these, we use with a lot of our campaigns, your tracking tool, so that you give a person one number and say, that's the only number you need. It's going to find me no matter where I am in the world. And then you can have that ring, to the office during the day, cell phone at night, even for not a lot of money, to a 24/7 answering service. Imagine how great that looks, how impressive that looks when someone can't reach you, but a live person, no matter what time or what day they call, takes down their information, understands what the question is, and lets them know that you'll be in touch with them soon. Again, that's not a lot of money. It's very impressive. And even the little individual loan officer can look like a really big mortgage firm by putting some tools like this in place. When you're doing a purchase campaign, you have to make sure that realtor is not going to introduce that lead to somebody else. And I know you get a lot of business from realtor friends and networks that you have right now. But if you're working with someone and it's not from a realtor, it's imperative that you get an introduction to that realtor. And I've never heard a responder or a buyer not be willing to share the realtor's name with them or make that introduction. But so what this does, you get to introduce yourself to that realtor and explain, hey, we market to purchase leads frequently. So if you don't refer this deal away from me, I'll be happy to reciprocate and send some additional leads to you as these new buyers come in. And we find that solidifies your relation. It builds your relationship with that new realtor and thus build your network even further just by doing a little direct response marketing to purchase opportunities. Okay, so I wanted to go into some other additional best practices that we find in conversations that we don't see a lot of people doing this. So we just want to point out some of these may be obvious to you, some of them may be new information. We think it's imperative that you calculate your cost per loan for each lead source every month. So very simply put, a very simple formula. It's not going to catch everything, but over the course of, if you're evaluating this every month, it becomes very applicable. The number of dollars you spent last month for marketing divided by the number of loans closed this month. You got to be able to track where the lead source came from, so that you can say, well, this channel is creating this dollar loan, or this cost per loan. This channel is creating this other cost per loan. And then once you get a trend from that, then you let the data drive your decision. You allocate budget to lead source based on the most cost-effective cost per loan and the ability of that lead source to deliver the quantity of leads that you need. So it's one thing to look at how much it's costing you, but it's great if you're getting a very inexpensive loan. Those tend to run out, and you need to start spending a little bit more and start stepping up the marketing sources to get enough leads in, weighing which one's most effective for you using the cost per loan. Something I do want to point out, that passive leads are not free. Your network leads are not free. There's a time and opportunity cost. So let's say on Tuesdays is when you go out and make your rounds and you're getting into realtor offices and just making sure that relationship is solid and is still there. Well, that's a whole day that you could have been responding to other lead sources. So there is a cost associated with that. There's an opportunity cost. So it's something, it can be a challenge, but try to calculate it. What is my time out of the office? Should I be, here working leads from other sources, or should I be out building my network of realtors and referrals? Okay. The next best practice that we like to point out, and it's something that we've covered a few times here, is understand how much your business is coming from your past clients, and always keep that 2 to 2.5% metric in mind. So, run the easy numbers. Again, I'll just throw 1,000 out there because it's easy math to do. If you've got 1,000 people that you've worked with in the past, 20 to 25% of those are in the market for a mortgage right now, and so determine how much of your business this month is coming from people that you've worked with in the past. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it none? Is it 20? If it's less than that 2 to 2.5%, there's a lot of opportunity there. So this is another metric to track each month. So each month you're tracking your cost per loan, per lead source, and then determining how much of my past business, how much of my current business is repeat business. And measure these. Keep these each month and compare yourself month over month to see if you're improving each of those metrics. Okay, another one may sound, make sure I'm on the right one here. Okay, may sound a little redundant, and you probably did this when you were getting started, but listen to your conversations. The phone tech that I've discussed earlier, they always have ways to record your conversations. And even to this day, even though I've been selling marketing services for 20 plus years, I go back and I listen to my conversations. If there's something I think I did wrong, I'll listen to it again and I practice it. Sometimes I just listen to make sure that I'm still doing well, if I'm still presenting myself well on the phone. And I invite everyone to do that. It's a big training tool here at Camber. I think everyone should do that in all of their places of business. And it's not just for the amateurs and the new people and the newbies. It's for the seasoned alike. So again, the Simple Tech provides recording. It's recording all the inbounds, the outbounds. So use that, and just use that as a training method to make sure that you always are improving upon your ability to talk to a lead when you get the opportunity to. All right. And I know we've heard this one before. Never make the discussion about rate, but in our process of working with mortgage companies, we listen to a lot of phone calls and trying to coach and help them with their own dialogues and how to best talk to leads when they have the opportunity to sell. And I don't think you ever need to ask rate, but there's still a lot of people that ask that first. Payment is the new close factor, and we need to start shifting our mindset. When we're talking to an opportunity, this is where the opportunity is. We're trying to put them in a better financial situation. So probe your leads to find out what their financial structure is, and so you can start working on ways to improve upon it. And that doesn't mean, oh, hi, do you want a cash out mortgage? And again, I throw this out there because we hear these in the calls that we record for training purposes pretty frequently. Better questions are, how much are you saving each month? Oh, well, what's getting in the way of you saving more? And that's where you maybe hear it's the student loans, it's the credit cards. It's, I had a bad idea and I bought a boat. So that's a joke. But so it's these types of questions that really get you in the position to have a better dialogue with your leads, so that when the leads come in, you're investing a lot of money to drive the leads in. You want to make sure that you're maximizing the opportunity that comes in, that you're having the best chance of turning that lead into something you can work with. And if you're discussing rate, or if you're just flat out asking them, do you want to cash out, it's not going to be very helpful. So these are just, again, a few points I point out there because we do see it frequently in our training calls. Finally, the last best practice I want to leave you with is try new things. So, I'm from the South. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, don't have that philosophy when it comes to marketing. or lead generation. There's all sorts of things to try. So I want you to try them all. Get out there and test all the different channels, test all the different messages. I can tell you, we at Camber, it is our philosophy to constantly mix things up. We're constantly trying new things. We're changing messages. We're changing words. We're changing targeting, and that's how you find what works. So you test it, you measure it, and you get your experience with it, and that's how you're going to determine what you should be doing. So after you've had the experience of all these different lead sources and all these different channels, then you can use your CPL calculations and your past client calculations and determine what your ultimate marketing mix is every month, and use that as another gauge. I want 25% of my business coming from my realtor network. I want 20% coming from my past clients. I want the next 60% coming from new people I haven't even met yet. So get a pool there, but you have to experiment and get your feet wet with all these different lead sources to determine what that best mix is for you. And as we always say at Camber, let the data drive your spend, let the data drive the decision, let data tell you what to do. And if you need help determining what this, how to best calculate this data and measure all these different sources together, our account managers are certainly happy to help you with that, as am I. And Brooke steps in again. Some more resources we have out there are case studies. So if you want to hear before testing something, how it might have been tested and implemented in another company, you might be able to find a lot of good information out there. I know there's a lot of good case studies on how, especially some studies where individuals were testing direct response channels for the first time and what the results were. Yes. Under the resources tab. Okay, not out there under the resources tab. Thank you. That's why we have Brooke here. She's making sure that I am not overlooking.
Yeah, and for the audience specifically, guys, the green widget that looks like it's a Word document, kind of looking icon with the page corner bent over. That's how you access the resources tab through the task platform. By the way, on-demand viewers, you guys are welcome to posting questions as well. Even though they want to get an immediate live response, guys, the Camber and the group and us in the back end will be monitoring those questions for even our on-demand viewers. So if you have a question at this point, if you're an on-demand viewer, make sure you're posting those. For the rest of the live attendees, let me also step in and say, guys, Chris has shared a lot of really well for, valuable information here. Obviously, some of it might be a little hard to digest the first time around. So you likely will want to come back and watch this recording in the future, but also think of who you know that would benefit from hearing this information. And this also could be another way to help build those existing partnerships. If you've got realtors or financial planners or insurance agents that are looking for newer and better ways of getting a message through the noise and the chaos of our life and our culture, to help them understand that there's needs that they likely aren't thinking about or that they are not seeing where a mortgage could really help them. I love what Chris said about being more of a financial advisor to them and helping put those families in a better financial position by helping them achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve, or helping them realize that there's benefits there that they are likely unaware of. Whether that is the renter who may have an opportunity to purchase and has maybe taken himself out of the market because he didn't think it was possible, or the existing family that, they're in a home that they outgrew years ago, but they haven't upgraded because they don't think they can afford to, but they haven't really run the numbers since, 15 years ago when interest rates were at 7%, and that kind of stuff. So just keep an open mind. And I love what Chris said about experimentation. Chris, if you're ready, we've got some questions in here that I think are ones to kind of address.
Let's.
One of the ones my eyes are drawn to was the one about CRMs. I'll address that one in just a minute. But there's a question in here from Max about where is the best place to find some of these exclusive leads or these high quality leads? Where do you go to for the data, the information, who to contact stuff?
Okay. And we get this question about exclusivity a lot. And to understand where that term came from, and that came from the online generators. So someone goes and fills out an online form. They hit, yes, I want more information. is that name being sold to one individual, or is it being sold to, one company, or is it being sold to a lot of different companies? So that's where exclusivity comes from. In today's world, I don't know that exclusivity really exists anymore. And back to what I pointed out, the minute you go onto Google and you search Cambr Mortgage or any mortgage company, now Google knows that you are looking for a mortgage and is going to serve up a lot of banners from your competitors selling you mortgages. So I might have gone onto that website and clicked, say, Zillow or so, and I hit submit, yes, have an LO talk to me, and Zillow may just sell that to one person. You can't think that you are the only person now talking to that individual, because they're going to be blasted in online, they're going to be blasted in their mailboxes, they're going to be blasted everywhere. So that one application may be sold just one time to be exclusive, but you're not going to be the only one competing for that loan. So our philosophy, before you send anyone online, I'd rather have a conversation with a person before I introduce them to the wilds of the internet. So that's what we think. A person picking up the phone and calling our client is more exclusive than that client going to an online forum, hitting submit, and then having a conversation later. So there may be a roundabout way to answer the question. Just my way of saying, I don't think exclusivity really exists anymore, based on the way that technology is in tracking people online and monitoring what they're querying and what they're searching for and what websites they're visiting. That it is our preference to have that first interaction, that first introduction on the phone, where you get to build a rapport with the person before you set them loose on the internet and open them up to other competition.
Absolutely. All right. So another round of questions here was kind of coming up. Margaret had a couple of different questions kind of pertaining to the area of a newer LO, somebody who's kind of obviously just getting started in business, needing to find a lead source, but is obviously probably working with a limited budget. What are your best suggestions or practices for those guys?
Okay. Well, so if you are brand new, you probably don't have a past client database to work with. So we've got to work on building that. Building a network of friends, family, referrals, and such is probably going to be slow going. So I think your biggest bang for your buck is to find ways that are finding people that are buying right now through the in-market monitoring that I mentioned that we do have a resource on. For about $1,000 a month, you can find about 200 people that are in your market looking right now, and that'll be the fastest return on your dollars. So it's not a matter of it is a matter of how much you're making on your dollars, but it's also how fast those dollars are generating return as well. And I think that would be the best way to do it. And so then you also have the benefit of now whether you reach all 200 of those or not, or if you're ultimately, however many you're working with, if you're working with 2 or 3, but there's 200 now that you've added to your database. So if you do that another month, now you got 400. So over the course of a year, now you've got a pretty sizable pool of people that you have had a conversation with, that you've worked with in the past, that you can continue to try to work with and start building that client database, that prospect database that you can now go back to over and over again, finding additional opportunities.
Awesome. All right. Another one in here is talking a little bit about, it kind of goes back to the source of the leads. Where do you go to find, the groups that you're going to be direct mailing to, for example? Like, say you're doing a move up campaign or a debt consolidation campaign, or even a purchase campaign. Where do you go to get your data? To find the people that you want to start marketing to, particularly if you're going to go to a cold audience?
Our preferred method is to use credit bureau information. It's the most accurate. It's the most applicable. This is a financial product, and all the information we need to know about an individual can be found in the credit bureau. So that's our number one source of data. And within that, you can start building propensity logic. Someone would be they start building towards maybe a move up, or you can see that financial need for a debt consolidation by understanding and interpreting what's in their profile. So it's more than just what's the mortgage balance and what's the credit score, but now we're starting to look at different types of debt. You can look at the history, how long they've been in their current home, which is not necessarily how old the mortgage is. And these are all variables that we use to determine qualification and propensity.
Okay. There's kind of a two-part question here. Max went back and talked about trigger leads. Is that something you guys get involved in? And the second part of that question is, well, is that ethical or not to be working trigger leads?
You know what? That's actually I like talking about this because we have these conversations from time to time, and I know there is some associations out there campaigning pretty hard against it. They found some case where someone was using trigger leads unethically. To address that, the consumer data in the wrong hands and an unethical person, they can use it unethically no matter what it is, whether it's a trigger or any sort of information. But so, is it ethical to sell that transaction to somebody else? So a company invests in generating a lead. Is it okay to let other people know that now that lead has responded, now they're back in the market? What I've learned in marketing to these people for a long time is that if you are serving your client well with a fair product at a fair price, they're never going to respond to a trigger campaign. You are fine. They're not going to do anything. The people that are benefiting from a trigger campaign are those that are not being taken care of by the loan officer that they're working with, or they're being gouged by them, or the product maybe just aren't there to be a good fit. So those are the people that respond. Those are the people that benefit from. And I've seen, time and time again, we listen to the calls for training purposes, and we help coach our customers. And what we see when a trigger person calls is that person is saying, I can never get my loan officer on the phone, and so I just don't know if I'm going to be able to close in time. Or I don't know, it just seemed like these closing costs were a lot, so I wanted to get a second opinion, and you find out they're being gouged. So it ultimately serves the consumer better because the process ensures that there is competition in there. They're not being taken advantage of, that they're being served. They're working with competent people that have the products that are most appropriate to them. So because it ultimately helps the end user, yes, I do think it is ethical, and I think it is a good practice, and it's a healthy practice that keeps the mortgage industry in check.
Interesting. Okay, one more question here, and then Chris, I know you've got some special offers to share just before the top of the hour here. One last question, I guess, and then we'll get to let you kind of share those offers. By the way, folks, keep posting questions, even if we don't have time to finish all of them live in real time. Chris and his team promise they're going to make sure they follow up with those questions and get answers to you guys after the fact.
Yep.
The next question in here, it said it's a question regarding, I need an amazing CRM. Obviously, our industry is blessed to have a host of a number of great companies that offer client relationship management. And that's the really important thing to remember and recognize. It's not about prospecting or aggressively selling to your past client database or the loans. A loan never applied for a house, right? People are the customers who apply for the loans. Hopefully you do multiple loans for them and their friends and their family. We do have one of our loyal sponsors at the Originator Connect Network, Whiteboard CRM, is going to be a panelist on our webcast tomorrow. Folks, that you guys are welcome to come check out. I know 2 back-to-back webinars in 2 days apart may or may not fit your schedule, but remember, you can always register and watch it on demand. Chris, why don't you share a little bit? I know you've put a couple of things together to continue the conversation here with the folks that have checked in for today's event. And for those of you who are watching this on demand, if you'd like to get connected and take up or begin a conversation with Chris and their team at Camber Marketing. Chris, why don't you share just a few thoughts on, I think you had a little bit of a special offer for the audience today as well.
Yes. Oh, wait, and Brooke is handing it to me now? Yes. Okay, so this just in, the special offer we have. Anyone that participated in this webinar or watches it later, we're going to take 5% off your order for anything that you order with us. But additionally, was just recently brought up, it's like, you know what, we should also waive any expense it costs to get them onboarded with the Bureau. So that's a cost we'll eat. So 5% off an order. We'll waive the setup charges to get set up with the Bureau. That's like a $500 value. So I think that's pretty good. So sure, Brooke. All right. She says do it. So we're doing it. And for anyone that goes out to our LinkedIn page, follow us there. Find this post about this webinar and like it so that we can capture your name. We're going to pick one of y'all to get a $50 Amazon gift card. So that's pretty nice. So yeah, lots of nice things.
You got that through the webcast platform. That obviously the icon that looks like the little LinkedIn icon. Click that. Type in your message. That'll get you onto their page and send out the message that way to go ahead and connect with these guys on LinkedIn. Watch what they do. They post a lot of great information on there. If you haven't already downloaded the resources that they've provided, the case studies that Chris mentioned a few minutes ago as well, I would encourage you to look at those. Even if you decide not to work with Camber directly, I hope you do, because I think they'll make your life a heck of a lot easier and a lot more cost effective to produce some very high quality communications to existing and potential customers. But there's some great information in those case studies about things that you could do totally on your own. And I know Chris has been and his team have been very gracious in sharing that wonderful information with all of you. So get to the LinkedIn, like them on the LinkedIn. That'll enter you for the drawing for the $50 Amazon gift card. If you engage or connect and you want to if you'd like to connect with someone from Camber to go ahead and get the process started of mapping out your marketing plan, this time of year is, traditionally a little bit slower, particularly if you're in the Midwest or the North. It starts to get a little cooler, things get slower. So you might be thinking about, what kind of leads could you be generating now that will make November and December better months? And would Camber be able to help you with that? If you guys are interested in reaching out or connecting directly with them for a marketing review and consultation, please just go ahead and post that in the Q&A now. And the best contact information for them to get a hold of you, phone, email would be great. Let's see, there's one last question in here, Chris. I'd love to see you get your opinion on. Mail seems like an ancient way to market with all the digital texting technology out there. Why mail? Why direct mail?
You know what? It is. It is ancient. How far back does the post office go? So imagine the first direct mail piece came out, like a day after the post office was opened up. Why mail? Because it works and it's measurable and it's quantifiable, and in some cases it is a little different. Think about how many emails you get every day that are getting caught in your spam folders and such. And it used to be telemarketing was a big thing, and then you had the do not call list. So that's fallen out of favor now. Email marketing and text marketing, everything, and it's there, but it's so easy to send out a lot of messages through those digital sources that it has just inundated the marketplace, and it's just auto delete, or put up filters to block it out. So those are the disadvantages of the non-mail. Now, what we find with mail is, when you're working with a very important financial product like a mortgage, the holding a piece of paper, reading detail, reading information, putting the custom message in there has weight. So you present the envelope in a way that requires them to open it so that they understand, it requires them to open it to investigate it further. They unfold the letter and they're reading. There's weight there. There's something different from all of the emails that are bouncing around. And truth be told, if I mail out 100 letters and if 99 of them wind up in the trash can, I have had a very successful campaign. So it doesn't take a lot of response to have very profitable, very successful campaigns, and that's what it's about. So we've been doing this since 2004 as Camber Marketing Group, and we're exceedingly good at it. And we can provide all the analytics necessary to support our claims and to make sure your campaigns are doing well. And that's why, yes, it's ancient, but again, it ain't broke. It's still working very well. So we'll continue to do it.
Absolutely. Well, and you almost think about it, it's almost the reverse effect of what it used to be. I mean, it used to be you got inundated with so much junk mail that you'd have half of it in the trash can before you got back in the house, kind of thing, from the mailbox. So now that trend has reversed itself. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if there's any kind of nationalized study on what percentage of emails we receive actually get read. I know the majority of the people I work with and coach and train, they skim through to find the one or two, myself included, the one or two or three that are important to me, and the rest get both deleted. It's so hard to get through that.
I was reading an article the other day that was stating that millennials absolutely love to get mail, that they don't get it. It's
correct mail because they don't get it. Interesting. I never really thought about it from that perspective. That's awesome.
Having a researcher.
I know we're going to head a little over on time here. We're not going to go too much longer, but there was also a conversation that actually I had recently that kind of opened my eyes to a different possibility. The other one is you're seeing a lot of companies promoting a marketing, particularly direct mail to cold list marketing to cell phones, texting, messaging. What do you guys think about that, Chris?
I pause because this is something very new, and we're having a lot of conversations about it right now, and just even with my own team of account managers and such. I believe texting is appropriate once a relationship is established. If I get a sales message via text, maybe I'm old school, I'm annoyed, I'm kind of put off by that. How dare you just think you can just blast the message into my hand without my invitation, and knowing that I'm ultimately footing the bill for it. So that changes once I know you. Once I've had a conversation with you, then yes, we can be a lot more efficient with shooting messages back and forth to keep the process going. To you tell me what you need, I give you a quick answer. So it has its place. I don't think it is good for an introduction. I think it is good for continuing the relationship.
Right. So it might be a great way to, take a direct mail piece and then, give them the option to begin that conversation with them calling us via text as an option. And that's a layer of automation that a lot of people are working with. Anyway, the reason I asked the question is because the commentary that was shared with me by kind of an expert in the field is there's a whole other layer of federal regulations when it comes to robocalls and the broadcast messaging to someone's text that go multiple layers deeper than the kind of restrictions we get on a mailing list opt-out or a do not call list or a spam filter opt-out through email marketing. So there's a whole other layer of potential liability there, was basically the commentary that was shared with me. Anyway, guys, that's it for the time that we have, folks. We're going to be closing out here in the next 30 seconds or so. So if you do have any final questions that you need to post in here, go ahead and get them popped in here. Again, thanks for joining us for today's programming. As always, watch the circulars, the weekly newsletters that we send out as far as upcoming webcasts. You can always check out more information about the Originator Connect Network and upcoming events by going to mortgageconferences.com for the 30-something live events that we do around the country throughout the year. Check out when the next one's coming to your area that you'd like to attend, or come to one of our 3 national conferences. You can find out information about those on the website as well. As for online engagement, my team and the rest of the folks who manage the webcasts, the websites, and the Twitter and Facebook and all that other fun stuff. You can always go to mortgagestory.com is one of the best places for that information. Chris, I'm going to give you, 10 seconds, final thoughts you'd like to share with the audience before we go ahead and get them out of here for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I think we had the contact us slide up there. And what I want to point out about that is that phone number, 866-287-4600. Hit extension 2. That sends the calls to our team of account managers. I've trained them all with all the different lead sources and channels. So any one of them can have an intelligent conversation with any person that calls in, just to give our perspective of what each channel is, what each channel does, and compare the different channels together. So, and if the conversation ever gets over their head, they can come grab me to call to join the conversation. So whatever you're wanting to experiment with, whatever you're wanting to to try next, call the number and bounce it off and get their thoughts and see what we think you should expect from that. We're happy to share that information.
Yeah, and that, of course, is going to be a no-cost and complimentary consultation to talk to you about the ideas. And I know, Chris, you and your team are one of the more ethical companies I've ever talked to about any of this kind of stuff. And if it's just not going to be a good fit for you, or it's just not going to be an appropriate strategy, they'll tell you that as well. At least you'll have the confidence in knowing. Guys, thanks again for joining us for today's program. Obviously, there's been a huge wealth of information. We do want to encourage you to like the Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, connect any way you can. Share this information with folks you know that need to hear this great information, and use that to build your business and grow your mortgage origination practice. If there's anything else my team or I can do to help improve your business, that's our only goal, is getting you from where you are to where you want to go in your business as fast as humanly possible. Let us know what kind of content you'd like to hear more about in future webcast events as well, by checking out and commenting on any of those pages. Thanks for joining us again today. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks all.